It's easy to dismiss scary urban legends as just that, legends. But most stories have their roots in truth, and even some of the strangest and surreal sounding urban legends might have some truth to them. Number 5. There are many urban legends about rats, which isn't really surprising given how connected rats are to urban life throughout human history. Many of these are false, or at best exaggerations of the truth. But at least one of these rat-based scary myths is true. In a city the size of Seattle, public health organizations receive about 50 reports of rats climbing up through people's toilets in a year. Given how much food waste is flushed every day in urban cities, these pipes provide a perfect home for rats, which is needed to eat every day in order to survive. So it isn't too uncommon for rats to try to find the source of this food. Rats are incredibly well adapted to urban life, particularly in the sewers. Their claws allow them to scale vertical walls. They can tread water for 3 days straight, and their ribcage can hinge so the rats can crawl through any space their skull can fit through. This means even the twisting pipes that connect your bathroom toilet to the sewers isn't enough to stop the rodents from breaking into your home. In fact, the U-bend in the toilet pipe actually gives the rats a pocket of air before they take the last leg of the journey into the bowl itself. Compared to urban legends about serial killers breaking into people's homes through their medicine cabinets, rats in a toilet may not seem that terrifying. But rats in urban areas are one of the biggest vectors of spreading disease, and many breeds of these rats are immune to common poisons. So not only is it the fear of something unexpected jumping out at us when we're most vulnerable, it can also be a legitimate health issue. Number 4. Bloody Mary is one of the oldest and most widespread urban legends. Passed by word of mouth, it's become the most iconic summoning game. The exact rules of the game vary slightly, and the backstory differs depending on who tells the story. But all supposedly have the same terrifying outcome. One common version of the scary myth goes as follows. The player must enter the bathroom or another small room with a mirror. All the lights are turned off and the player lights a candle. While gazing into the mirror, the player chants Bloody Mary. If done correctly, the image of Mary herself will replace the player in the mirror or appear behind them. Who Mary is the biggest varying factor. Some claim she's a woman accused of being a witch who lost her life during the witch trials. Others describe her as the victim of a serial killer, or even Queen Mary I of England, or Queen Mary of Scots. Whoever Mary is, or is supposed to be, her spirit is said to haunt the player. Of course, the supernatural part of this story is false. There are no ghosts involved, and while the Mary in the legend was most likely a real person once upon a time, it's not her face that players see in the mirror, but they are seeing something. In 2020, researchers at the University of Urbino conducted an experiment. 50 individuals were placed in dimly lit rooms and instructed to stare into a mirror. Even without the ghost story at the front of their minds, most reported the image in the mirror became deformed or even monstrous looking. Exactly why this happens is still being debated. Some have chalked it up to the Troxler effect, where sensations and images in our peripheral fade away when we concentrate on something. It's a trick of the mind that protects us in day-to-day life. But when we gaze into the mirror, the parts of our face we're not focused on become distorted, causing the deformed or monstrous image from the legend. Number 3. It sounds like a disturbing movie plot rather than something that could happen in real life. A worker climbs into a machine of some kind to clean it, to retrieve a fallen item, or fix some mechanism. His coworkers don't realize the man is inside and turn the machine on. If he's lucky, his screams are heard before the damage becomes deadly and the worker is rescued. albeit with some significant injuries. In more gruesome accounts, the machinery is too noisy for him to be heard, and it's only when the machine has finished its job that the deadly mistake is realized. The terrifying urban legend seems too unbelievable to be true. It's often assumed the story was born as a cautionary tale to warn people to follow proper procedure and be careful using machinery. Sadly, this myth has its roots in real life. Jose Medina was 62 years old and worked at the Bumblebee Foods California plant. The company primarily sells canned tuna and other seafood products. On October 11, 2012, Jose was doing maintenance on one of the industrial cookers used to sterilize cans of tuna. He needed to go inside the oven to unhook one of the chains that pulls the can through, as it had gotten snagged. While he was inside, one of Jose's coworkers arrived. He assumed Jose was in the bathroom and got on with his job, loading 1,200 cans of tuna into the cooker. Jose was trapped inside and the cooker was turned on. Jose's supervisor realized he was missing, and employees searched the facility, but nobody thought he could possibly be inside the cooker. It wasn't until the 2-hour sterilization process had ended that Jose was discovered. The oven reaches 270 degrees Fahrenheit during the process, and there was no way Jose could survive. The people responsible were charged, and the company paid millions of dollars in penalties. Thankfully, the equipment has been changed so something like this won't happen again. The scary urban legend evolved a few years later when cans of tuna were recalled. Later versions of the story claimed that Jose's remains were mixed in with the tuna. This part is untrue, as the fish was already tinned when put into the cooker, but it did add another disturbing part to the story. Number 2. A young couple arrived at their hotel late at night and headed up to their room exhausted. They didn't bother to unpack, but instead simply got ready for bed and tried to get some sleep. However, the mattress was extremely uncomfortable, and there was a strange smell. Even though they were both tired, neither could get to sleep, so they contacted reception to see if there was another room they could take. The receptionist informed them that all of the rooms were filled, but they could get a new mattress in the morning. Disappointed, the couple eventually managed to fall asleep. The following morning, housekeeping arrives to try to fix the problem with the mattress. After taking it off the frame, they make a gruesome discovery. There's a body under the mattress the couple had been sleeping on. There are countless versions of this urban legend, but all have the same conclusion. Someone left a body under the bed. It's easy to brush off the story as a dark joke about hotel cleaners, but it's a series of events that actually happened in real life, many times. One such case was that of Sunny Millbrook. Sunny was a 29-year-old mother of 5 living in a motel room in Memphis with her children and boyfriend, Lakeith Moody, who was the father of her youngest 4 children. Nothing was amiss on January 27th when Sunny dropped her children off at a school. It was only when she failed to pick them up at the end of the day that anyone realized something had happened to her. Sunny was reported missing. Police went to the hotel, but didn't bother going into room 222, the room where the young family had been staying. Motel workers had, though. After Sunny and Moody disappeared, they'd gone into the room, packed up any personal belongings left behind, and got it ready for the next guest. There was nothing unusual there, they said. That wouldn't prove the case for long, as guests complained of a terrible smell. Fabric softener sheets had been stuffed into the ceiling tiles, and incense were burned to try to cover up the smell, which was worse whenever someone sat on the bed. 3 sets of guests had come in and out of room 222, all complaining about the smell, before Sunny's remains were finally found beneath the mattress. Moody was eventually caught in Sunny's car a few weeks later and found guilty of causing her death. Sunny's sister and brother-in-law took in her children. Number 1. This scary urban legend circulates every Halloween. Sometimes the story is set at a haunted house attraction. Sometimes it's a residential home where the occupants go all out for the holiday. One of the most popular versions of the story takes place at a stereotypical funhouse. Among the dozen or so animatronics and dummies designed to scare carnival goers is a mannequin hanging from the rafters, swinging gently when guests go past. It's only when the carnival closes and organizers try to move the props that they realize the mannequin was a real human body. Strangely, this urban legend is based on a number of real-life events, the most famous being the case of Elmer McCurdy. McCurdy had been a criminal in life. He was born in 1880 to an unmarried teenager and raised by his aunt and uncle. He had a difficult upbringing and became a drifter when a global epidemic downturn hit. He eventually enlisted in the army, where he learned about explosives and was honorably discharged in 1910. McCurdy then took to a life of crime. He planned to use his experience with explosives to blow open safes and steal money, but the plan would backfire when he destroyed the contents of the safe. In another occasion, he planned to rob a train that was supposed to be carrying $400,000. However, he boarded the wrong train and wound up with just $47. The police quickly caught up with him, and he was taken out in a shootout. This was October of 1911, the end of a very short criminal career. McCurdy made little impact on the world in his short life, and under normal circumstances, he probably would have been forgotten if not for the actions of the undertaker who took custody of his body. By the time McCurdy passed away, he had no close relatives. After the undertaker, a man named Joseph Johnson, had finished embalming him, he discovered there was nobody to pay for his work. He refused to release McCurdy's remains until he was paid, and eventually set up the remains as an attraction which visitors could pay to see. McCurdy remained as a morbid sideshow and advertisement for Johnson's work until 1916. Two men, claiming to be McCurdy's brothers, showed up and claimed his remains. Johnson didn't question why it had taken them 5 years and allowed them to take McCurdy back to California. The men were James and Charles Patterson. They owned a carnival and put McCurdy on display as the embalmed bandit. After a few years, the remains were sold to Lois Sonny, the owner of a traveling museum of crime. The Sonny family owned McCurdy's remains for 45 years, and eventually his true identity was forgotten. They knew he'd been a criminal in life, but what he had done, nobody could remember. He also seems to have been confused as being one of the waxworks the museum owned, rather than the real remains. In 1968, the mummy was sold to Spoonie Singh, who owned the Hollywood Wax Museum. Like the Sonnies, Singh loaned out the mummy to filmmakers and traveling shows. During transportation to one show, McCurdy was strapped to the roof of a car, and his ears, fingers, and toes blew off. Finally, in the early 1970s, McCurdy was sold for the final time to the owners of a funhouse in Long Beach. There, he was spray-painted neon colors and hung from the rafters as a dummy. In 1976, the funhouse was used as a set for a scene in The $6 Million Man. During filming, McCurdy was used as a prop, but when the body was moved, his arm broke away, revealing this wasn't a wax work at all. Police were called, and a coroner found a ticket to the Museum of Crime in McCurdy's mouth. From there, the tale of McCurdy's life and afterlife unraveled. He was eventually identified and laid to rest in 1977. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.